Really kind of talk through my LUNR trade, why I took it, and kind of some of the things I was looking at along the way. So LUNR is a stock that I've been following for quite some time now, and really like what the company is doing. So real quickly, if you look at this chart, this is my yearly chart. The first thing I do before getting into any stock is I set some really basic trend lines. So, I find where the bottom is, I find where the top is, and then I put some trend lines in the middle. And this just helps me understand, where I'm at and where some of the resistance points might be on the stock or support points, right? So as you can see, like down here, this was originally resistance at one point, and then it flipped into support. Same with this. This became resistance, flipped into support, right? So I know that going along the way. And the color bands are really so I can see, okay, red is the bottom, green is the top, you know, different colors in the middle, yellow and orange. So since I'm day trading this stock and not going long on it in a bet for it to come up here quite yet, I'm looking at a smaller time frame. So recently, what I've been looking at is somewhere within like the 3 month range, maybe even shorter than that. And you can see right here, I'm going to turn on some other trend lines that I have. Okay, so this is the current action over the course of about 2 months. And I'm going to turn off my long-term trend lines because I'm not really working within that at the moment. And I can see that over the last month, 2 months, LUNR's price has really been moving within these trend lines. And I know that if I'm buying down here on the red, there's a good chance it's going to bounce from that point back up to at least the green. So red to green are my main trading zones. Pink down here is, hey, this is an even better price. Like if I liked it at the red price, down here it's even better risk to reward. And when I'm selling, typically the green is like where I can trim out, but ultimately I want to try to get this price to this blue line up here or the even deeper blue. And really the colors, I just keep adding them. So if I was going to do another one, I might add a purple line up here or something, or if the price dropped down, I'd add a different color line down there. So just a couple days ago, price was up here and I decided to short the stock all the way back down. Okay. And what tools I've been using for that is I'd recently watched a video where they were using the 20 SMA and the 200 SMA. So when I'm doing that, I'm zooming in on a 2-minute chart. Okay, so I'm going to go up here, change my hourly to a 2-minute chart. And then I'm going to go back to the day when I shorted the stock. And this was the criteria that I was looking at. So here's I got my trend lines, so I understand where I'm at in the greater trend. Okay. And basically, I wait till about 8 in the morning to identify if I'm going to potentially trade this stock. And what I'm looking for here is based on the strategy that I've recently learned, where I want to have the 200 SMA and the 20 SMA really tight together. Not far apart like this, but really tight. So coming into 8 o'clock, I could see that the 20 SMA was below the 200. And typically when it's below, there's a good chance that it's going to stay below until it can rebuild support level to get above it. So this initial spike could have easily faked me and a lot of people out, because all of a sudden you're here 8:30, it's 8:28 down there, and then boom, price goes up, and you're like, oh crap, man, this thing's gonna move up. Let me get in. Let me try to trade this to the upside. But based on where the 20 SMA was, I knew that there's a good chance that might not happen. And when I'm trading this stock, I'm not just trading this particular stock. I'm looking at the market as a whole, right? So over here, I've got all these stocks that I follow. And when I start seeing all this stuff flipping red, I know that, we're going to have a bad day, especially if it's a Thursday or a Friday in the stock market. I just know that it's going to be red. And most likely, that's what's going to happen. And the other thing I know is we're all the way up here. We're at the top of my trend line, right? So based on the recent history, stock has moved within this. So why am I going to go against the grain and think that this thing's going to break out and make some new all-time highs without any particular catalyst, right? So I'm going to bet that, hey, we're at the top of a trend line. No matter what happens, this little blip here, we're most likely going to want to come down and retest, okay? So after this happened, this initial pump, and then price started to fall, I knew, hey, we're probably going down. And I use a couple other indicators as well. Okay. And when this starts to come down, I can see things over here, like these two lines are crossing. And I know that when that's headed down, the price is headed down. And when these two are under the zero line, that's a downtrend. Anything underneath this zero line is all downtrend. So I know that we're not going to be headed back into an uptrend until this breaks above. As you can see here, it was a little bit, but it came back down, downtrend. So when it gets above and stays above like this, I know that the uptrend is going to be happening versus a downtrend. The other thing I kind of look for is when these turn from green to red, they turn from green to dark green to red, and that starts building. Same with the indicator down here. Okay. I want to see this kind of going down, the yellow line going down. And I know that when I start getting into these levels here on the RSI where it's like a deep red, it's probably a bottom, and we're going to move back up. Same here, it's a bottom. We're going to move back up. And then we got the Willy here where when price comes down and stays down here below the negative 80, I know that we are, down there. That's when things are going to down. Okay, when it shoots up, and then we start getting the price up in here, like you can see over here, up. That all means uptrend. Even if the price isn't moving heavily, it's headed to an uptrend. So I basically shorted LUNR 2 days ago from here all the way down, okay? And what I would do is I had an initial position up here, okay, where I got in. And this, you can see the 20 SMA here basically works as resistance. So when price comes up and hits that, I want to see it basically get resisted and come back down. Sometimes you can see it pops up a little bit, but ultimately I want to see it come back through. So I start my position up here, and when I see this fail, I add to my position here. Okay, comes back down. And a lot of times what I'm doing when I'm shorting, which is very new for me, is when this comes down and I can see that price is like capitulating and maybe gonna start to push back up a little bit, I just close my short. Now, sure, I could hold it all the way through, but I don't want this thing to suddenly go back up and now I'm at break even or I'm losing money. So I buy my short here, I close it here, I do the same. I add to my position, so I'll double my position here, try to close it here, and then same, I do this all the way down. Now, when the stock got down here to this pink line, I know that that's a great area for me to be buying, right? So then what I do is I close my short, and I decided, hey, now I'm going to open a long position. Now, I'm not long, right? I'm only day trading it really. But I know that this is going to want to move back up. And I knew it probably wouldn't do it in the same day. This stock doesn't often go from top to bottom, bottom to top, all in the same day. So this position here, I knew that I was going to hold this position for a day or 2 days, maybe 3 days, maybe into next week if I had to. So when this came down here, I closed my shorts and I started a long position here. And it came up and I sold a little bit here. It came back down and I added to my position and bought back my shares plus more shares. And as price started to trend back up, as you can see, this is moving up here. All of this is moving up. I bought shares here. I bought shares here. I bought more shares over here. Okay. And now my timing is not perfect. I'm not using like hotkeys, and I don't have the best broker, so I'm sitting there manually typing stuff in. But I'm basically following this. Okay. And then price came up here. And this was basically the end of the day, 212, and price started to come down. And I was like, oh, shit, man. It's going to come down. And it came all the way down. And I was worried that it was going to come down and, I was going to be in the red on this thing and it was just going to sit here. But ultimately, I remembered the bigger scale of things. And I was like, I like it here. So even if some of these shares that I bought were a little bit underwater, it was okay. So when it came down here and started finding a base at the end of the day, I added more to my position. And then not too long after, this guy Chill, whose Discord I'm in, sent me a news piece saying that LUNR had just had like a 1.8 million or billion or whatever deal with NASA. Okay. And the stock hadn't moved off of this yet. It was the end of the day. I don't think people were really paying attention to what was happening over here. There was other news. It was a big red day too, and there was other news coming out about the war and potential 1-month ceasefire. So a lot of eyes were on that stuff. I don't think people were paying as much attention to LUNR. But I knew that this news was huge for LUNR and something that was definitely going to propel the price from back down here all the way back up here. And one of the things that I like about this stock is when the price moves from here to there, that's a 20% gain. A lot of people are trying to get 20% gain for the year, or they're trying to buy, 20% gain for multiple months. And for me, I'm like, hey, if I can make my 20% gain in a week, why would I not do that? So, and in also doing that, I know that like if I'm buying the price here, okay, at $18, my downside risk is 4%, 5%, right? And my upside is 15%. Okay, so then going into the next day, so overnight hours, okay, after market, price was starting to move up a little bit, moving up more, and then we get into the next morning. So the first thing I did in the morning was I come and I check out LUNR to see where the stock is, where the 20 SMA and 200 SMA is. And now, as you can see, it's flipped, okay? It didn't flip at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, 5, 6. It flipped in the overnight hours, which is what I love to see. So now we've got the 200 SMA on the bottom and the 20 on top. And the same thing is what I said before. When the price is, or when the 20 SMA is either on the top or the bottom, it's most likely going to follow that day. So if this was down here, I could bet there'd potentially be more downside. But since now the 20 SMA is above, I'm betting on upside. So I'm not going to try to short. I'm going to do the opposite. So luckily, I had already built a huge part of my position over at $17, $17.50, and $18. And then even I think around a little bit higher up here. So going into here, I had already had a very, very sizable position. It was just a matter of me managing that trade then. Now, if I didn't have such a sizable position, I would be buying right here. So you could see it's 8 o'clock. We're coming into 8:22, 8:24, 8:26, and the second I see a huge big green candle, this is where I want to start getting in at. Now, typically I want to wait till 8:30, but by then the price is already up 5%, right? So I'm trying to anticipate, hey, this is going to go up. We had 2 big red days. We're going to have a green day. The markets are green pre-market, so I'm betting that this is going up. So if I was going to be putting more money in right around here, when this is starting to curl, you see all this is curling up. This is flipped. It's curling up, all of this, okay? And this is breaking out from down here, negative 80 up. All that is bullish signs for me. I want to be putting my money in as much as I'm willing to risk for a potential 5 or 6% downside, okay? So basically, I held this stock all the way up. Now we hit our blue trend line, and in the past, well, actually up to here, in the past, sometimes, this is maybe the highest trend line, and I would have sold here. But one thing that I've learned recently is just let your runners run, right? So this came all the way up to almost the top of my blue trend line. And so I'm sitting here watching this thing go, 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 go. I'm up 17, 18, 20%. So the second we get up here, and then you start seeing all these big green candles kind of getting less, right? We start flipping to red. We start seeing the 20 SMA curling over. This is where I sold my position. I sold my position up in this area. And typically what I would do is I would start shorting to the downside, which I did right over here. I shorted, but not as big of a position, because if for some reason this goes up more, I don't want to give up a lot of those gains. So I sold my entire position up in here, and then I did a small short, and then follow that same pattern down. We're bouncing now price off this 20 SMA, okay? And what I know is going to happen when this goes like this, it's basically the 20 SMA and the 200 SMA. They want to be friends. They want to meet each other up again at the end of the day, So this broke out, came all the way up. I sold, and I know that 20 SMA is headed this way, which is why I feel confident shorting when this starts to happen. Now, I'll be honest, sometimes when you see this happen and it breaks back above, it kind of scares you a little bit, but that's why I close my short positions. I don't hold them all the way down. I start shorting here, try to close here, or, if it comes up, I'll add to my short and close, because that way if something happens and this wants to come all the way up, I'm not giving up the money I made and then risking more, okay? So now, prices come back all the way over, and as you can see, where are we at? We've got it flipped. The 20 SMA is now underneath the red 200, and this chart is only updated to about 7 in the morning or 7 p.m. On TradingView, but what's going to happen is it's 2:06 a.m. right now here. Markets are going to open in an hour, and this price is going to move. Now, it could move back above. It could stay back under. So depending on tomorrow where these two are, I will decide what to do. If this is still under, I'm most likely going to short the stock because it's a Thursday. Markets might be red a little bit after a day of really nice gains. And then I'll check my indicators and follow the same pattern. And if it starts turning red, my goal is going to be to try to short this stock back down. One of the things I used to always do was I'd always be looking for stocks to buy the dip and sell up here. And then I started realizing, okay, if I'm able to time the dip and I'm able to time the top for the most part, why am I not shorting now the top down to the bottom. Why not just double my gains? It doesn't make sense. So that's what I've started trying to do. You know, if I can make 15% up, I'll make another 15% down. And now I just had a 30% gain on a stock that only moved 15% either way. So that was my lunar trade and what I'm looking for tomorrow.